Rightio, graveyard shift. So I will make it brief, which is actually quite a challenging thing to do with our business. Before I start, Glenn's still there, so I've got to be careful. Mariana Resources, I bought shares at 2p in early 2009, alongside my brother. When they got to 13p, I sold. My brother held on until 30p, and he thought he was clever. And then a short while later, in 2011, they hit 54p, and now they're back down to 1.5. I'm sorry. That's scary. But on my hand here, because I haven't got a piece of paper to note it down, I've got a whole list of shares in that situation. So that teaches me, because I do eventually learn my lesson as a private investor, that I have to get into this business at the right time, and I have to leave at the right time. And I have to leave not just hankering on to the past, but I have to shut the door and run screaming away from the natural resource sector as fast and far as I can. So for Metal Tiger, which is the smallest business tonight with a 3 million capitalization, I can't promise you that we are a long-term business. In fact, if I do that, I'm doing you a disservice. We are a business that is here to buy and develop assets at the bottom of the cycle and secure the quickest, most efficient value, crystallize that value at the earliest and best opportunity, and then shut the door and run kicking and screaming away, distributing the gains that we make to our investors rather than holding them through the next cycle, high up to the top, straight down to the bottom. So medium-term focus, build as quickly and fast as we can, and then understand that there is a need to exit. And you probably won't hear that message from many mining companies. But we own quite a few shares and have quite a few interests in Metal Tiger. And if the share price does exceptionally well and we exit, for all the shareholders, then we will benefit too, which is the key thing. So it's very unnerving. There is actually a timer here that tells me how long I've got, so I'll be relatively quick. This is our disclaimer. It means ignore everything I say completely and don't take anything on board. Essentially, do your own research and make sure you thoroughly understand any investment. Most of the companies in our sector are trying desperately to survive, which means that people will say and do things perhaps that you might find shocking sometimes. We try and be as honest as we possibly can. This is a horrible time for the natural resource sector, but we kind of love it because this is where the opportunities come begging. And in the last few months, there have been a dramatic shift in a number of opportunities, the price that people are asking for things, the terms they'll consider. I promise you, since the September bump upwards in the sector, since it came crashing back down, it's finally killed people's aspirations for exceptionally powerful deals on their projects. So this is the time to start building the business. This is why we think MTR is investable. I say MTR, it's Metal Tiger's ticker is MTR on AIM. We have currently a 3 million capitalization. We've stayed pretty much around the same kind of level in price-wise, just under a penny for most of 2015. It came out of Brady Exploration back in mid-14 when the share price was around 0.5. So pretty much in the last year or so, our share price has increased by about 80%, and we're just bobbling slightly under the penny level at the moment. We think, but there is a question mark because we only think that we're in an interesting bottoming phase for the resource sector at a cyclical low. We won't know for sure until we're 6 to 9 months out and the share prices and the commodities are dramatically ramped up and doing very, very well. But in order to make the biggest returns, you have to be bold and brave, and you have to get in right near the bottom. We have a diversified opportunity. I think it's Warren Buffett says it's diversification, but we don't believe that. If you put all your eggs in one basket, it's a very dangerous scenario for any business. We have amongst our team resource finders. If anyone wants to know what it's like to see a share price go up 100 times in about 6 to 8 months, you need to speak to our chairman, Terry Grammer, who was a director of Sirius Resources in Australia that found the Nova nickel discovery. He's quite easy to speak to, even though he lives in Perth, because he's just sat over there by the wall. And he can tell you a few interesting tales about this space. Terry is our barometer for finding good projects to work on. Nothing that we will commit significant amounts of money to will not go through Terry for approval. That's simply the way we run the business. We are natural resource traders. I come from an active private investor background. We've made money in the past in the natural resource space. In the last cycle, 2008-9 up to 2010-11, the returns on natural resource portfolios were astonishing. They will be again. It's just a question of timing. We have multiple projects in our business. We invest not only in equity investments in the natural resource space, we also buy warrants. We have all sorts of little instruments we're looking at, but primarily we invest in projects on the ground, because that's where your biggest return will come. If you get projects at this stage in the cycle and run them up the development curve, the valuation increase is dramatic. We believe in active news flow. Some companies, a lot of companies, don't, because when you release an RNS, you have to tell the truth, and at the moment the truth is not very pleasant for many companies in our space. Everything we are engaged with project-wise, we're pushing forward. Every single project that you'll see in our presentation, which is in the room next door, and on our website, we are actively pushing forward with work. The work that we do is not wildly costly. It's all controlled and coordinated, but we're moving forward. And that yields news flow, so we can come back to market and tell market all the time what we're doing. It's completely wrong to run your business quietly as a public company. You have to keep the market fully updated at all times, and that's our policy. And we maintain a decent amount of working capital. I'm an accountant, and it's a source of paranoia to me that we never go cap in hand to the market begging for money for emergency working capital. So we make sure we have a good degree of cash and equity investments that we can trade out of if we need to pay our bills without fear. Okay, so that's our investable or investment proposition. Here's the board. We have a board of 4. Terry Grammer is our non-executive chairman. He is our project finder and acts as a control on what we do. I take in plenty of things. We all do. And most of our hard work in finding these wonderful opportunities is rebutted in a few seconds when he sees the jurisdiction, the type of resource, and so on and so forth. We are really honoured to have him on board. We're a small company. Perhaps we shouldn't have him on board. We maybe don't deserve it, but we've got him, and we use him all the time in development of our business. Cameron Parry is an aggressive strategic deal maker and has a certain degree of determination to push forward his ideas and this business. He started Metal Tiger. He managed to secure a shell, which wasn't easy in mid-2014 with Brady, and he is a very proactive, driven CEO of the business. I'm an executive director, chartered accountant, former, founder of Mining Maven, which some of you may be aware of, and I've been investing in small shares for 20-something years. I feel quite old now. And Alex Borelli is a seasoned public director, and he's an accountant as well. So we have a good balanced board, the right people to push the business forward as a group. There's the fundamentals. We can't believe our market cap of £3.1 million, but that's the way it is in this world today. Our relative performance relative to the sector is exceptionally good. Our absolute performance is disappointing. Most of our peers are down over the last year. We're pretty, we're 80% up overall over the last 16, 17 months. We wish we were dramatically more than that, and we believe we will be if we keep going with the same work ethos and methodology. There's the mix of significant shareholders. We are trying as best we can to lock down as many of the shares with good people who will hold on to the stock and work with us, as it were, through these difficult, challenging times in the market, and then come out the other end, hopefully with substantial capital gains. We actually have another notifiable holder who we didn't get the notice in time to add him onto the presentation. So it's quite a long list. It's a mix of institutions and individuals, and that's absolutely wonderful and just what we want. We also have options in place for the management team. In all cases, when we award options, they're in excess of 2 times the share price at the time of award. Options should not be given at or near the current share price. There should be a challenge. So we're always at least double the existing share price. If we make the business a lot of money, if our share price rises, shareholders benefit, and we will too, by quite a large degree. Okay, we have 2 arms to the business: direct equities, which is where we buy interests mainly on London AIM, and we hope to sell them for a profit. In the year ended 30th of June, which is actually the half 2 of the first year and half 1 of the most recent year, we made about £650,000 through equities trading on the market. The beauty of that is that for every pound we make, we don't have to raise to develop the business. So if we can build to a situation where we can trade our way into covering our costs, then that would be a wonderful scenario. It's actually very possible, but we have to do a lot of work, and the market at this precise point in time is obviously hugely challenging for the sector. Here's an example of our investments. We were very fortunate because Kibo Mining was our first one in November 14, and the share price we entered at was 1.5 pence, and within a few days of the cash going over, the share price hit 12. So we were obviously moderately pleased with that. But not everything works out quite so perfectly. Well, maybe in 12 months' time it will do, but we've also invested in Eurasia Mining, Ariana Resources, ECR Minerals most recently. We're picking stocks that we think can rise multiple times. It's not for 20, 30%. There's no point. You have to go for stocks where you feel there is a multiple return available. And when that multiple return comes, we take it. We don't tell the market, precisely what our expected turn is, because in fairness, we don't know. The pressure we came under to sell our stock in Kibo when it rose from 1.5 pence to 3.5 pence was enormous. But we didn't, we held. And then we started selling around the 9 pence level with a dramatic level of return. So we expect to make significant times our money. We're also building a warrant book, because this is where your big kicker in the equity space comes. And we're actively gathering as many other warrants as we can. This is the core of our warrant book from our direct investments that you saw on the previous page. I'm hoping that within the next 3 to 6 months, we'll have a very long list for you of all the warrants that we hold. This will give us dramatic capital returns going forward as the sector recovers. So that's direct equities. Our main drive is direct projects. We have more than my 8 minutes allows me to cover. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview. You see the list on there: Thailand, Spain, Botswana, Russia, Tanzania. So let's quickly run through them. Just bear in mind throughout all of these different examples, the aim here is to build value, crystallize value, distribute value. It's not to sit there through this cycle all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom. Thailand is our home country, as it were, because we were named Metal Tiger after the year of the tiger. We have been operating there, or members of our team have for many years, and we have a very strong local team in Thailand. We find it to be a perfectly pleasant, reasonable, acceptable operating environment. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to respect the local ways of doing business, which we do. And we find it all to be perfectly good for us to build a reasonably large operation there. We've just taken on 90% of our original joint venture with a local operator in Thailand, and we have an additional option to significantly expand our Thai business. Because we're an investing company on AIM, we can't operate. So you can't actually take 100%, but you can take a range of percentages. Up to around 90 is our higher level. Then you have to have a local operating partner who does the work on the ground for you. Every single one of our projects has that in place, because you need local teams who know what they're doing. The moment you start to try and run an operating business out of London or anywhere else in some far-flung part of the world, you get into trouble. So we trust implicitly the people that we work with. In all cases, we've known them for a considerable period of time. Spain. We signed a joint venture with a company called MEN Finland, Mineral Exploration Network Finland, earlier on this year. They had a number of licenses, which we've collectively called the Logosam project, principally tungsten and gold. They'd undertaken a few years' work on the ground, surface-based work. They hadn't really penetrated the ground and done a huge amount of deeper work. When we signed the deal, we agreed to pay up to 500,000 euros for a 50% stake in the licenses. We said to them, what would you like to do next? And they said, well, we haven't really gone subsurface, so we really like to drill. So we bought them a drill rig. We try and do things slightly differently. And they've been operating that drill rig over the 2 key tungsten targets in 2015. And they've pretty much exactly found tungsten where they predicted from surface. And the assays have found a range of mineralization, including quite high grade, up to 0.63 tungsten, which is an exceptional result for the first 6 months of any campaign. We've also recently extended into gold drilling, and we found our first gold in the Logosam project. So we have really fallen on our feet as an investing company with that project. To have 50% of that by the end of our payment commitment will be wonderful. We're 40 kilometres away from W Resources to the west, and we're in the same Extremadura region, and they've just had their mine approval through, so that they can go ahead and start production, which is an exceptionally positive thing for the region. And we're in the heart of it, not too far away. There's a bit of information on the targets. This is all in the presentation, in the other room, and on our website. Botswana. Difficult conditions, difficult markets yield amazing opportunities. We have in the room our joint venture partner, MOD Resources, Managing Director Julian Hanna. This is an astonishing story, and we are privileged again to be able to work in Botswana on this opportunity. The size of the copper, silver projects we're looking at are enormous. The overall mineralized system is hundreds of kilometers. This is not your normal thing. But because the market is slightly bizarre at the moment, we were able to work locally with the authorities and with the administrator of a company that went into administration earlier on this year, Discovery Metals. And we were able, Discovery Mines is the company that we specifically have been able to acquire the shares in. We're still subject to 1 or 2 final wrap-up measures locally, but we have a 30% position and MOD Resources a 70% position in an enormous clutch of ground, which encompasses 14 licenses. The neighbours are interesting in terms of what they're spending, what they have spent on the property, and how they plan to develop. Those avaricious researchers will no doubt find the information on Kuprick, who are operating in the north of the system and developing a mine, and have spent substantial amounts of money on the ground and are planning to spend even more. We are slightly reluctant to put this chart on the screen because it's quite difficult to read. It's slightly easier in the presentation. But when you have a look at that, just have a look at that blue section at the top and do some research on what's there. And then have a look at MOD's website, our joint venture partner, and what they found and how they're developing their interests. And then look at the RNS that we released recently with the 70% acquisition of those assets out of administration. And you tell me if you find a bigger opportunity for a small investment company in the market today, and I'll be astonished if you do. So we intend, as with all our projects, and for the benefit of the local authorities and for our own shareholders, to be as active and proactive on those licenses as we can. We need to demonstrate what we believe is there, which is an extensive array of copper-silver mineralization across an enormous area. The moment we do that, we increase the value of the project dramatically with each step as we prove more mineralization. Further information is available on the websites, and MOD Resources website in particular has an extensive amount of information. This is not something that you expect to be able to take on board. But the market has yielded wonderful opportunities. Russia, interesting. We have a number of connections with Russia, and a significant one is Eurasia Mining, who have operated perfectly well in country for an extended period of time. They have come across a number of gold production opportunities in country, and this is the first one, and we've signed an option to participate on equal terms with them because we have a collaboration agreement that's been in place since December 14. Within a couple of years' time, we could be producing gold from this particular project should we decide to exercise the option. We've only put down $25,000 to lock ourselves in until mid-February. Everything that we do is very cautious, and we only commit small amounts of money in the early phases of any potential development. If we're happy to proceed and want to proceed and we sign up to this, we will have a 33.5% position in this project, which is dilutable down to 30% should the vendor wish to buy back in on quite reasonable terms for us. It's something that, again, you would not find in a bullish market with a high gold price, but if it's possible for a small company to generate real incoming margin on a regular basis, then we should look at it, which is what we're doing. Tanzania, we have 2 JVs with Kibo Mining, 1 uranium. Not everyone is a lover of uranium, but we think if you look at the cycles, actually I was in Munich, fancy place, to go to the Edelmetall Messe, which is a mining show, and I saw a presentation by UEC. Have a look at the UEC presentation on their website. I think it's Uranium Energy Corporation, because they go through the dynamics for the uranium market, and it's an astonishingly good presentation. And when the uranium sector moves, it moves faster and more furiously than anything you'll ever see, which is why we want to build a uranium business in readiness for that, because we think with the Japanese situation and with the fundamental forward supply-demand dynamics of uranium, we're going to see an interesting marketplace. And if we can have a small piece of that, we'll make an awful lot of money for shareholders. We also have a gold joint venture with Kibo in Tanzania, and a little bit of information on the slide there. We're doing a little bit of work there at the moment, and hopefully there'll be some news to market on that shortly. So in conclusion, we think we're at the bottom. Mind you, that said, I thought we were at the bottom for 4 years. So in fairness, we're usually wrong, but eventually we'll be right. Dual investment approach, direct equity trading, feeding cash profits into direct projects. We've made really good trading profits so far as declared. Our projects are our big driver to our business, without question, all the time. If we make money, we're going to spend it on our projects. So our net assets of our equities is never going to rise dramatically because we'll use the cash we generate to reinvest in the project side of the business. We have an enormous pipeline of opportunities, and we have a very good diversified book. Our 3 main projects at the moment with Thailand, Spain and Botswana are superb, and really for a size of organisation that we are, which is partly down to the market sector, is a stunning portfolio that we intend to build on and really drive value. We want a high growth rate. You're not in this business to make 100%, and not at the bottom of the cycle. You're in this business to make 5, 10, 15, 50, whatever times your money. We are of exactly the same mind as all the investors that buy shares. We don't like the flippers that much, but we want people to hold and work with us, and we intend to make serious returns for this business, which is a function of doing the job right and keeping the dilution low. That's me done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was really, really interesting. Do you have any questions for Paul, please? Again, if you do, please raise your hand and wait for the microphone. Gentleman at the front here first, please.
When you do your trading, do you trade just in small companies, or do you trade something like Glencore, which is highly tradable, or do you trade anything?
No, wouldn't do any majors or anything that requires a lot of time commitment to constantly monitor, which is the problem because you have to be relatively sharp in and out. We did think about Glencore when it had its big collapse down because that was completely artificial. but we were just a bit busy on some of the projects work, so we can't risk it really. We'd love to do more of that. Again, we don't do any complicated derivatives and so on because it's just too complex, time consuming, and you have to sit there by the screens all day long. And so it kind of rules us out. Sometimes we miss opportunities.
As you're looking for mammoth returns, would you not consider something like Churchill Mining? I mean, their market cap is 1/35 of their claim, which are staggering odds, given that I feel they've got a very good chance of
in fairness,
of getting the claim.
In
and
fairness,
it requires
they
no
are.
work at all.
I was listening before, but they are in the legal business rather than the mining business. So our investing policy might preclude us from doing that. And also, there's a few companies that have these complicated legal situations going on, and we look all around us and see resource opportunities coming out of our ears everywhere. We've got one of the best chaps on the planet who's in terms of this business. Sorry, Terry, but to big you up, as it were. But his history of success in the last 3 or 4 companies that he's been involved with have yielded dramatic multiple returns. Dramatic. And we believe he can do the same for us. He's suggested Spain. A year ago, through Minds and Money, Spain came along, and we've really fallen on our feet with what looks to be potentially a dramatic tungsten discovery. And now we Botswana, just quite amazing for us. And also Thailand and the way Thailand's moving, and what we could actually have in Thailand is astonishing. So we see the value in that, and that's not to decry anything that Churchill are doing. And I suppose as a private investor, because that's what I used to be really, an active private investor, it's the kind of opportunity that I'd probably go for.
Question at the back?
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
You said here that you've got an exit strategy. Well, what are your exit strategies and what's the time frame?
Yeah, it depends on how long the market upcycle goes. The trick is to get out just before it all collapses at the end of the next cycle. Now, is it 2 or 3 years? Is it 20 years? I don't know. But there are some lead indicators. For example, as Rick Rule from Sprott said recently, when you feel that your investing strategy can't do any wrong and everything's going swimmingly well, immediately put 70% of your portfolio into cash. Immediately. And I kind of think back to 2011, and I went to see an interesting chappie, John Teeling, I'm going to quote him, he'll probably kick me, from Connemara Mining. And I was telling him about, how I'd done this and done that and made a really big return. And he just said to me, just be careful of master of the universe syndrome. And I didn't really know what he meant until I kind of held through the dip down. So I don't know, but there's various ways to distribute the returns. We will reinvest to a point. And we always want our projects to push forward as fast and and as efficiently as we can. So there'll be a reinvestment approach for a period of time, and then, all being well, if we make the returns we hope to make, then we can distribute via dividends, via all sorts of complicated returns to shareholders, via selling projects, selling the company, and so on. And we'll consider everything. We can't. I don't particularly want to hold through the next cycle as a director of a business receiving abuse on a daily basis from 1,000 shareholders who have held my shares at 6 times higher. I want to get as much for people as quickly as possible. I absolutely applaud the private investors, like you chaps who come and watch these presentations and sit in the room and buy the shares. Because I tell you, the boys and girls in the city just down the road, unless you're prepared to whack 50% off your share price, won't give you money. And even them probably won't. But it's ordinary investors, Bert in Glasgow and Sally in Leicester, who go on Barclays stockbrokers and stick a bit of cash and place their money and risk it online in the hope that their judgment is right. And that's why we as a company have a policy with regard to our financings that we've done through market. If you look at our 2015 financings, they've all been done at the mid-price, or as near as, damn it.
What dividend do you pay?
We don't, but we're hopeful.
You will be paying one
And we'll be paying as soon as we possibly can, within good reason. But we also have to clear. We can't pay a dividend unless we clear the retained losses and a few other things off the balance sheet. So we have to earn a lot of money first, or we go to court and we get effectively special dispensation to cancel our historic losses and distribute. We prefer to make the money if we can and clear our historic losses as a company, and then we will look at all forms of giving shareholders benefits from any major moves in the value of our projects and any crystallisations.
And another further question, further point?
This is just a question from our group. Why haven't you got any graphite?
Oh, I think I know where that group is. Well, we keep grabbing hold of it; it slips out of our hands. But well, you know, we look at all sorts of different things. We started the business 60 months ago with nothing but a bit of aspirational stuff, really, with regard to Thailand and some experience and knowledge and the team and so on. And now we have five projects, as it were, 5 or 6 projects and options. We've had a good trading history on the markets. We've got a significant, amount of working capital. Some fantastic opportunities, a pipeline that's growing by the day. If we have chatted with a couple of companies about graphite, scares us a bit, because we need to learn a little bit more about it. I probably haven't even taken any graphite projects to Terry for further review. What do you think about, Terry? What do you think about graphite?
We don't need new pencils.
Yeah, our investment policy is simple. Do we need it? Copper, zinc, lead, blah, 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 gold. Yes, yes, yes.
Paul, I'd add one quick question, if I may.
Yeah.
And it's about the investing, the equities, the investing policy side of things. You mentioned that you look to make multiples as a return. At the moment, you had on your slide 4 companies that you were in.
Yeah.
On AIM, that is.
Yeah.
In your personal opinion, having looked at these companies for as many years as you have, how many current AIM resources companies do you feel genuinely have the opportunity or the likelihood to achieve multiple returns for investors? If you were in 4, do you think there's 10? Do you think there's 20? Do you think there's only 4? As it stands, what's your
Well,
rough
when the
view?
tide comes in, all boats rise, don't they? So we must be getting close to the point of dartboard investing. And I think as long as the companies can survive through this phase and have enough finance or access to sensible price finance so they don't dilute you to death, there's got to be a general rise in the prices of resource stocks across the board. The key is, it's going to sound a terribly cheeky thing to say, but you want to be, when all boats rise, you want to be a speedboat, not a dinghy with 2 oars. Because the better quality companies, investing companies or operating companies, will rise far quicker and far faster than the slower, sluggish, heavily diluted, poorly managed, poorly financed companies. So everything we do as we build the business, we build it with a view to sensible financing requirements, make sure we've got enough working capital, make sure we think we can crystallise significant value down the line. Because then, when the market does kick back into life, we think we can accelerate our share price away, because we think investors, private investors, don't much care really for the bigger institutional investors who will not support stocks like ours, at this time in the market in the UK. But the private investors will engage with that message and buy our stock. So it's a hugely exciting time. We're buzzing. The analyst in the office, actually, that we've used over the summer to analyse TSX stocks, has been saying since August, and I really hate him with a vengeance. He's been saying that he thinks November, this is since August, that November was the time when you would see the turn. And I said, which week? And he said, week 4. And it's horrible, but it's looking like he's right. And every time he sends me text messages on a regular basis, because he's now back at university in his final year. And he reminds me with every piece of information that's going his way. So we're optimistic and hopeful, very excited, and really grateful that you've given us your time, 9 o'clock.
I think we're all
tonight.
done there. Thank you very much indeed, Paul.